Hey everyone, if you get value from these videos, please consider supporting us on Patreon. The money will go towards my brother, who's the writer for the channel. There are also some perks, such as your name in the opening of the video, among other things. A link will be in the description and pinned in the comments. Thank you. Few images can provide an insight as to the horrors of the Holocaust, as well as the photograph called simply, the Warsaw Ghetto Boy. We can see a group of Jews being forced out of a building at gunpoint in which they were hiding. Front and center is a young boy, arms raised, with an SS officer standing behind with a submachine gun pointed towards the child. The photograph was taken during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, an armed conflict between the Nazis and Jewish occupants of the ghetto, in defiance to the efforts to deport thousands to the Treblinka Death Camps. In today's video, we will cover the events that led up to the Warsaw Uprising and the fates of those in the photograph that is but a single snapshot of the Holocaust. It is perhaps helpful to start with the creation of the Warsaw Ghetto in October of 1940. At this point in the war, Nazi Germany had conquered much of Western Europe. The Blitz over Britain was taking place, and the execution of thousands of disabled people in Germany had begun. October of 1940 would see the creation of what would become the largest ghetto in Nazi-occupied Europe, holding at its height around 436,000 people. The vast majority were residents of Warsaw, but some had been deported to the ghetto from Germany. The density of the people was such that it was common that around 10 people would have to share a room, living in squalid conditions on starvation rations of less than 200 calories a day. Smuggling food from the Aryan side of the city was commonplace, though it risked execution if caught. Malnutrition, a lack of medical care, and huge populations living in close proximity allowed diseases such as typhus to run rampant. Between October of 1940 and July of 1942, some 92,000 people died due to horrific conditions imposed upon them. It was on the 21st of July 1942 that the Nazi authorities began the first deportation of Jewish men, women and children from Warsaw to the Treblinka Death Camp. Some 265,000 people were sent to their deaths killed in the gas chambers. Around 60,000 people were left to live in the ghetto, many of those who were employed in the industries vital for the Nazi war effort or hiding from Nazi authorities. In armed response to such actions, the Jewish Combat Organization was formed to provide some sort of armed resistance. On the 19th of April 1943, those who remained in the Jewish ghetto rose up in defiance against their Nazi oppressors, fighting against SS General Jorgenstrup. Supported, trained and supplied by the Polish Resistance Home Army, plans were made for when the Nazis would return to complete the liquidation of the ghetto. When the German forces were sent into the ghetto, they faced strong, organized resistance. Apartment blocks were used as sniper nests. Guerrilla tactics were employed to ambush the Nazi forces, whilst many of those who could not fight, including the old and children, hid in specially prepared bunkers. Bombs and Molotov cocktails were dropped from the tall buildings, halting and delaying the Nazi plans for the deportation. In response, the Nazis began the wholesale burning of the Warsaw Ghetto. This robbed the fighters of their advantage, as the smoke and fire would turn the bunkers into death traps. It is against this backdrop that the photograph of the Warsaw Ghetto Boy is believed to have been taken. It is thought that the photograph was taken by SS photographer Franz Conrad, who would also be responsible for the tallying up of the valuables stolen by the Nazis during the uprising. Conrad's photographs were to form part of a report that SS General Stroop could produce, which would highlight the noble actions of the German forces, highlight his success, and further demonize the Jews he had slaughtered. Rather than listing the Jews as killed, they were destroyed. And rather than listing them as human beings, they were listed as rats or lice. The original photograph of the Warsaw Ghetto Boy formed as part of the report. with the tagline, "Forcibly pulled out of the bunkers." After being forced out of their hiding place, the group of men, women, and children were marched to the holding point near the train lines. They would then be sorted and loaded into cattle trucks, and either sent to the Treblinka or Majdanek death camps. In all likelihood, the people in the photograph, including the young boy, were killed. Around 78,000 people are thought to have been murdered at Majdanek, whilst over 900,000 are thought to have been killed at Treblinka. The identity of the young boy holding up his hands is by no means 100% confirmed. One possible identity is that the child's name is Svichai Nausbaum, though there are aspects of his account that do not quite match up as to what is taking place in the photograph. Other possible identities have been postulated, however, to this date, there is no definitive answer. We do, however, know the identity of the soldier holding the gun in the direction of the young boy, Josef Blösch. Josef was an SS Rotenführer who had joined the SS in 1938. He had also been part of the Einsatzgruppen B operating in Belarus and was responsible for the mass murder of Jews, Slavs, and Soviet officials. He was posted to the Warsaw Ghetto during the initial deportation as part of the force to round up Jews. He would remain in the ghetto where he would earn the nickname Frankenstein, on account of his monstrous cruelty. He was known for the random murder of Jews who may cross his path. It was during the deportations in 1943 that he was pictured gun pointed towards a young boy, though he was pictured on other occasions too. By May of 1943, the Nazi forces had systematically destroyed the Jewish ghetto and stamped out all remnants of the Jewish resistance that remained in the city. Whilst some of the Jewish leadership escaped, many were killed or took their own lives. Some 56,000 of the remaining Jews of the Warsaw Ghetto were killed in the fighting, summarily executed, or sent to the death camps. As for the fates of those responsible, SS General Stroop attempted to hide as a regular Wehrmacht soldier after giving up on plans to stage a last stand in the Alps. He would later admit to his actual identity and was put on trial by the Americas for the murder of US airmen. He was convicted and then extradited to Poland to answer for his role in the liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto. Stroop, along with cameraman Franz Konrad, were both convicted by a Polish court for the murder of 56,065 Jewish people, and sentenced to death by hanging. Stroop expressed no remorse, stating that he felt no guilt for killing Jews, even the children, such as the Warsaw Ghetto Boy. As for Blösch, he was captured by the Red Army as a prisoner of war and sentenced to hard labor. It was during this time that he sustained a serious facial injury to the extent where he was unrecognizable. He was able to return to a normal life in 1947, able to escape being identified and starting a family. It was not until 1962 that he was identified for his role in the liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto. Blösch was executed in 1969, admitting to the crimes and his role in the murder of thousands. The horror of this photograph is only compounded by our understanding of the fate that befell those captured in this picture. There are but a handful of the millions of victims of the industrial-scale genocide perpetuated by the Nazi state. This photograph offers an insight into the methods employed by the Nazis to round up those considered to be lesser. It is clear for all to see the terror and panic in the faces of those who in all likelihood knew of their fate. Even to this day, there are many who will seek to downplay or even deny the crimes of the Nazi state, those capable of looking at such a photograph as this and ignoring the human suffering imposed. As grim and twisted as the Stroop report was, it offers an insight into the deadly bureaucracy of the Nazi state, and those who work to exterminate so many. But the photograph offers us a visceral reminder of the human suffering of the Holocaust, and that regardless of sex, age or class, none were treated with humanity.